So I'm now out here at one of my favorite locations, and when I say that, I mean one of my favorite like filming locations I've been to, but also just one of my favorite spots in the city of Chicago. I'm out here at Belmont Harbor, right off of Lake Michigan, right between Lake Michigan and Lakeshore Drive, and it's just a pretty spot. It's a cool spot to just come and kind of chill and hang out and look at all the boats. But the reason I am here right now is because this, I'm not good, right here, that water right there, that is where the Porsche slipped into the waters of Lake Michigan on that very rickety dock. And oh my gosh, did Joel have a heart attack or what? So it's a beautiful harbor here in the city of Chicago, beautiful boats, pretty expensive to have a slip here. It was just kind of the perfect spot for, Joel Goodsen's father's Porsche to fall into Lake Michigan. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you, and I hope you love it as much as I do. You can see some of the buildings back there, our skyline. So right out there are the waters of Lake Michigan here in Chicago, Illinois. And then there's this little harbor here. Oh, it's not that little really. It's actually quite large. Called Belmont Harbor. So in the scene where Joel and Lana and their friends, they decided to go out and get some ice cream. So this circular area is kind of seen at the very beginning of that scene. There's the four of them. They're kind of walking around with their ice cream cones, and you kind of see them walk past this circular area. Now granted, a lot has been redesigned since then. Things look a little bit different, but there's still some things that you cannot mistake, such as that spot right there. So now I'm going to turn my camera this way, and we're going to kind of focus on the waters right over there. I have to be careful I don't step in goose poop. A lot of geese, lots of gooses out here this morning. So this area right here, you could see how the land kind of goes down on a slope. I'm actually kind of walking down right now. I think you can now see that slope pretty clearly. So there is a scene where Lana and Joel are walking down this slope. They're having their conversation. And then they stop and rest. They're talking, leaning on the back of the Porsche. And you see that light pole in the background very distinctively. But at some point, Lana reaches inside the car for something, and in doing so, she disengages the gear shift. And after she walks away, oh, and by the way, during their walk, they do walk all the way down here, all the way down this slope here, this grass slope. And they actually do walk out onto that rickety pier, which was right here. It was fake. It was not a real pier or dock, whatever you prefer to call it. But it was right here. And at night, this is the skyline of Chicago. So this is all lit up. So in that scene, you do see all of these buildings back here all lit up, looking glorious. So they're having that conversation, leaning on the back of the Porsche, and Lana kind of gets a little offended at something Joel says and kind of walks away. And very shortly thereafter, the Porsche starts sliding down this hill, all the way down here, over to where that little dock was. And well, Joel is panicking. He's trying to hold on to it. He's trying to stop it from going into the water. And for a minute there, we actually think he's going to pull it off, right? It stops just on the edge of that pier. He's holding on. He thinks he's safe. And then all of a sudden, kerplunk, the car, the pier, everything just splashes right down into the water right there. Now, in case you were worried about that Porsche, no need. Porsche manufactured that 928 model from 1978 until 1995. It was the first mass-produced Porsche with a V8 engine. So 4 of the 1979 models showed up in the movie, and a 1981 module, including one that was completely gutted for the lake scene. So the Porsche that went into the lake wasn't the one that he was driving. It was one that was completely gutted. They were ready for what they were going to do with it. Porsche. There is no substitute. So a collector I read tried to track down all of the Porsches that were used in the filming of the movie, and he was only able to track down one. And in 2012, he purchased that vehicle for $49,200. Not bad. Not bad for a Porsche, right? Especially one that was film used in risky business. So that collector was able to buy that vehicle at a Hollywood memorabilia auction. Now, the only remaining 1979 Porsche 928, are you ready for this? Used in the risky business movie, sold. I gotta like double check my notes here. Sold for $1,980,000. $1,980,000. You heard me right. At an auction held on September 28th, 2021. So, heck, I don't know what happened there between 2012 and 2021. The guy that got the one for $49,000, I mean, he had a deal. So, and one more fun fact about all of this is the exhaust that you heard, you know, in the Porsche, right? We love that noise, right? The exhaust and the engine sounds, they were actually dubbed in. They were dubbed in from another Porsche 928 that had a hole. It had a hole in its rear muffler, and thereby creating much louder, you know, kind of noises there as Joel was driving around town in his daddy's Porsche. Wow, this is definitely one spot that has changed. I wish it looked a little more like the movie, but you can still pretty much make it out due to the buildings back there, due to the slope of this land, and due to that light pole back there that I pointed out. And even these buildings over here on the harbor side are not the same. But we still have that circle and that light pole. So I think that is pretty cool. So Curtis Armstrong, and you can Google this, he was more of a theater actor. He didn't really fancy himself a movie actor. So when he was cast for risky business, he thought, well, let's see how this thing goes. And he decided to keep a journal to journal his experience. And that journal, I think, was released many years later. He talks about the fact that Cruise and de Mornay started an affair. However, Rebecca was in a relationship with Harry Dean Stanton, who she had started dating on another movie. And Harry Dean Stanton would show up to the risky business set every now and then and want to see his girlfriend. So when Harry wasn't around, according to Curtis Armstrong's journal, Tom and Rebecca were you know, having their own little risky business, if you will. Films imitate life, art imitates life. And then when Harry would show up, well, Tom was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? But Tom, when Rebecca was inaccessible, he started cutting a wide swath through the local talent, according to Curtis Armstrong. He did say that he recognized, you know, Tom was identifying as a born-again Christian, and the rumor was he had actually considered shepherding souls for a living. So this was even when he was just 20 years old. And he said, I could believe it because away from the set, initially, Tom made straight arrows look like corkscrews. Is what Curtis Armstrong said. Curtis had said he would ask him at the end of the day if he would like to join the crew or the cast at a bar for a drink, and he said, no, I got an early call tomorrow, I got to work out still, and I've got to study my lines, and then I like to read the Bible a little bit before bed. He said just a little at night keeps him on the right track. But then, returning late one night, Curtis found 3 or 4 young girls, he said late teens, he suspects, lined up in the hall outside of Tom Cruise's room. And he remembers thinking, Tom's going to be really upset if these hot girls interfere with his Bible reading. Okay? That's pretty funny. So, Curtis says, I asked them, with all the stern gravitas of my 28 years, Curtis Armstrong was 28 at the time the movie was filmed, even though Cruise was only 20, and they were both supposedly teenagers of the same age. He asked these young ladies if there was something he could do to help them. They stared at him, and at that moment, Tom opened the door. Another girl came out, adjusting her hair, taken off down the hall, while the first girl in line stepped into Cruise's room. I'm just, repeating what Curtis Armstrong said. So he says in his journal that Cruise's unprecedented success was a surprise to me, and the perpetual rumors regarding his sexual orientation were utterly mystifying. At least at that time, there was no question about what side of the fence Tom stood on. So he goes on to say that he recorded his initial impressions of Tom Cruise in the journal. He said, "Tom is an interesting character." There we go. Can't really make him out. He would appear to be on the brink of a great career. Well, Armstrong was right about that. But when it comes to doing things with him, socially or professionally, he's not terribly reliable. Always late, very casual with other people's time, but in spite of it all, it's difficult not to like him. Though it's the early days, the rehearsing I've done with him has gone smoothly. No arrogance or no selfishness there, so we'll see. And then he talks about how Tom Cruise, kept a very immaculate room until Sean Penn started hanging around. Sean Penn was in town filming a movie at the same time, Bad Boys, and Tom and Sean had, gotten acquainted during another movie they had worked on, Taps. They bonded. So whenever Sean wasn't working, he would come over and hang out on the Risky Business set. And he said that, Curtis said that after that, when you'd go into Tom's room, it was no longer neat and tidy. It was actually kind of a hot mess. Yeah, so he had these things to do to keep him busy when Rebecca was around, hanging out with her boyfriend. And eventually, I guess, she and Harry broke up, and Tom and she started officially dating, but it was short-lived. It's hard to keep a relationship going when you're filming movies in different states. It's hard enough to sometimes keep them going when you're in the same state. So he kept a journal. Obviously he was wrong, right? He made other movies. He thought this was going to be a one-time thing, and he journaled the experience so he'd have it to look back on. But he went on to do Revenge of the Nerds and a lot of other projects. And that journal kind of actually ended abruptly. He had some downtime in between filming, and at some point he was done, and he just went back home and just kind of stopped. Didn't wrap up his story very well. So I'm just going to walk up the hill here that Tom and Rebecca would have walked up. There's that light pole. Make my way towards my car. But yeah, if you want to know more, Google Curtis Armstrong's diary about his time on Risky Business. There's a bit more in there. I was trying to keep it as respectable as possible, but it's an entertaining read. And of course, they both went on to have really great careers, so good for them. And I met Curtis recently at a fan convention, and he was awesome. He was so much fun. So that is it for the Belmont Harbor, where the Porsche falls into the water. So after Joel borrows that bicycle and he starts bicycling his way down to Lana's apartment, I mentioned that starts out in Highland Park and he ends up in downtown Chicago. Well, obviously he doesn't bicycle the whole way. He bicycles a little bit way, he has a little bit of a tantrum, a little meltdown, and then he gets in a cab. And he comes to Lana's apartment, which is right where I am standing right now. So let me turn the camera around and show you. So this is the street, that corner, that intersection right there. He's in a cab. The cab comes along and pulls out right in front of this building here with the address 10 Elm Street. Still has that same black awning, in fact. And then he gets out of the cab and he walks over to 14 West Elm, which is Lana's apartment. We're gonna go over and take a closer look at that. There's actually a marker in the sidewalk that says 14. But this is where it happens. It's right off of State Street on Elm Street. So State and Elm. Right where that cab is coming in, that's exactly where Joel pulled in, except the cab pulled over and stopped. And then he hopped out, he ran past that apartment with the black awning. Lots of activity. And ran over to Lana's apartment and went through those front doors. We'll go over and take a closer look. So this is it, 14 West Elm, and you do see this 14 in the pavement during that scene right here, and those are the doors. I can't see my reflection. Those are the doors that he goes in through. I'm sure it's locked. I'm sure he cannot just open this. Oh, you can. So that would be the door that he opened and went through. 14 West Elm, right off of State Street. That would have been a very long bike ride from Highland Park down here, so I'm glad after he had his meltdown, he, got a cooler head about him and decided to take a cab. He then goes up the stairs, he goes to Lana's apartment, they have a heart-to-heart, and he basically says, all right, let's do it. We're in business. Let's use my house for one night, for one wild night of business. And they do. They proceed with putting their plan into action. So that's it right here, downtown Chicago, 14 West Elm Street. It's really windy out here today in Highland Park. So there is a scene where one of Joel's friends is going to a bank to withdraw money so he can make a purchase at the party later, if you get my drift. Well, nobody really seems to know where that bank is. But I'm going to film this because I swear this looks like it would be the spot. Everything about it lines up except for one thing. There's no revolving door. So I don't know if it could have been remodeled or if the revolving door was fake. Who knows, right? Anything could happen in Hollywood. So I'm going to just take a little film of it and show you. I'm going to tell you why I think this is it. There's a scene where this one boy is walking and you see this corner right here in the background. It's very distinctive. You cannot miss it, right? And then he keeps walking because he's going into the bank to get some money. And then another guy is walking out and Joel is there. And right there was a revolving door. Well, in the scene, and there's these two pillars, very distinctive pillars, sitting on these pedestals, and they have these square-shaped signs that in the scene said First National Bank, because this was the First National Bank at the time. Now it is Chase Bank, but those pillars, you can't mistake them. The pillars, the pedestals, that corner over there, and as he's walking by, you see a flower box in the windowsill. And that flower box, I mean, I know it's been a long time, but it looks exactly like that. Same color, same shape, same construction. I think even the same type of flowers. So I feel like, I don't know how or why, but I feel like this is where the revolving door was, where all the boys were going in and out of. It doesn't really make sense. I don't know. Could they have had a revolving door there at one time and got rid of it and put another window in? Or was it fake? It doesn't look fake in the scene. But you clearly see the boy walking by, the revolving door, people are going in and out. You see the two pillars, and that's, where some cash transactions are made for the party later on, because the boys are making their withdrawals so they can make a purchase later on. So these are the only two pillars that have signs on them that are shaped like that. There is a door over here, but you'll see in a second it's a stationary door, and there's no columns on either side of it. So I just feel like this has to have been it, especially since we know they filmed several other scenes right at this intersection. We know they filmed the music store down there. We know they filmed him riding the bike and coming out here. And then this bank. It just seems like it has to be. I wish it were open. I wish I could talk to someone. One thing that's interesting is over here, this one has, I don't know what you call this, but it's got this stone piece on the left and another one on the right. And the other window sections do not have that. They don't have that. So could that be an indication of that not being the original wall? Could that be an indication that there was a revolving door there? I don't know. But it is interesting that is the only place that I see that on this building. I feel like this has to be it. Too many things line up except for that dang revolving door. So I don't know. What do you think? Tell me what you think. Also, once we pass the stationary door, you'll notice the masonry changes. It's more of a smooth, flat surface instead of that stonework that we saw before. So it could not have been back here. That place with the two pillars with the signs just seems like it has to be. All right, there you can see the signs. The sign, St. John's and Laurel. So right up here, these buildings on the right, that's where the music store was, where Joel and Miles had their meeting. That building way on the back on the right corner, if I zoom in, that sort of beige building, that's the building that I think was the bank. This street right here was the street that Joel went riding his bike on, and he turned right before that beige building, and we see it in the background. Now right up there, that road is Central. You take that down to Sheridan, and you're in the area where the chase sequences I showed you were filmed. Just like 3-minute walking distance, where they went in and out of the alley a couple times, where they came on the main road. and then they made a turn where you saw those buildings in the background. I forget. So, considering all of these things, the record store, the street he rides his bike on, the building he turns, the corner he turns by, the building I believe to be the bank, the chase sequence just being like 2 minutes down the road near Central and Sheridan, where they're going in and out of the alley, and then they're driving by those Tudor buildings, and this viaduct here. I mean, they're all just within minutes of each other. You could probably walk it in a matter of minutes. So that is why I kind of feel that building up there, the bank building, had to be it. The only thing that doesn't line up is the revolving door. So maybe they just put it in for the movie. Maybe they thought it would be a better effect to see all these characters going in and out of a revolving door. A little more visual impact, a little more wow than just going in and out of a regular door. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But everything was right here. You can see it's like 5-minute walk probably away from one location to the next, if that. So there you have it. On to the next spot. So have you been noticing what I've been noticing? And that is how much so many of these locations look exactly the same. It might be a different business in the side of the walls, but so much looks exactly the same. So little has changed since 1982. Except this. This is the first one. Still here in downtown Highland Park. Still just up the road from all those other locations I just showed you. In fact, just on the corner is the big beige building that I believe was the bank. And we have something else, so I'll show you. So not a whole lot I can tell you about this other than this is now a bank. This is Bank of America. This is new. And down there, if you could see that green light, that's the intersection where that beige building is. That is Chase Bank. So, and just beyond that was the record store. So you have a little frame of reference here. So this, it's the Bank of America now. But what stood on this lot at the time of filming was the vehicle repair shop. After the Porsche went in the water, Joel had to get it fixed before Dad came home, right? So he took it to I believe it was an Audi repair dealer. And we saw it coming out. We saw the car coming out of the repair shop after it was fixed. So this is where that repair shop was. Right here. Just a block in from everything else, which makes total sense. But now it's this beautiful Bank of America. Thought I would cross the street and get a better look at the whole thing. So yeah, and I double checked. It was a Porsche / Audi dealer at the time. And it's replaced by another Audi dealer after that, but it has since been torn down. So it's the first thing that I've so far come across that's been torn down. I'm sure there's more, but that was it, the Porsche repair shop. And finally, very loud here, I've arrived at the final Chicago filming location for Risky Business. Don't know if you can see that. That is the John Hancock Tower on Michigan Avenue. And on the 95th floor is the restaurant called the Signature Room. And that is where Joel and Lana had that final dinner. So it's an amazing place. It's very luxurious treat to take yourself to the Signature Room. You don't see the outside of the building in the movie, but I thought I would show it to you anyway. So I'll turn the camera around. So this is it. It's the 95th. It's the John Hancock Tower. Very fancy apartments. I believe Oprah Winfrey lived here at one time. For all I know, she still does. I don't know. I don't follow that. But this is the John Hancock Tower. And the restaurant's on the 95th floor. And there's cocktails on the 96th floor with amazing views. So I'm about to head up and enjoy that. Come along with me. Okay, we are about to enter the Hancock Building. There's this beautiful little fountain feature here. Lots of elevators. It is pretty crowded. Lots of people standing in line to go to the lounge. Okay, and I get the short line. Yay! This is the line for the restaurant. There's a sign there for the Signature Room. Sadly, after 30 years in business, the Signature Room abruptly and permanently closed its doors a mere 3 weeks after my visit in September of 2023. The sudden closure was announced with a notice being posted on the property. This may just be some of the final footage that was ever filmed at the historic Signature Room. So here I am at the 95th floor. I could not get the table that Joel and Lana dined at this time. I had it last time. But I did get what they call a whiskey business. It's kind of like a whiskey sour with strawberries in it. And it's named the Whiskey Business in honor of the movie. So I'm going to enjoy this while I try to figure out what to have for dinner. It's a big menu with lots to choose from. Alright, so that view that you have right there of Lake Michigan is the view that we saw through the window of the Signature Room here at the 95th floor during that final scene. That was the view out the window, and I'll show you. This is the 95th floor. Oops. It's kind of crowded. And that window, that table right there, that second table right there, that is where Joel and Lana dined, with that view out the window. Right there. The last time I came here, I was able to sit there, but not this time. So this lucky couple is dining where Joel and Lana dined. Very busy here. Saturday night, downtown Chicago. That is where it was. There was one table behind them with a Chicago politician sitting there, and that's where they had their final discussion. Just went up these stairs, and now we have a little higher vantage point of the Signature Room on the 95th floor of the John Hancock Building, Chicago. It's a pretty happening place tonight, and again, Joel and Lana dined over there at that far wall overlooking the beach and Lake Michigan. Well, dinner was amazing as usual. The Signature Room does not disappoint, but it is a zoo here today. So it's time to head out. Hi guys. I'm so excited to be in this location right now. I don't even know if I can speak coherently. I've been wanting to find this location from Risky Business for years, and with most of Risky Business being filmed in Chicago, well, I assumed the scene was filmed in Chicago too. I'm referring to the scene at the end of the film where Joel and Lana are walking through a park. I Google Earthed every inch of the city of Chicago. I mean, it has its fair share of parks, so that took quite a bit. And, you know, they dined at the John Hancock Center on the 95th floor, so I thought, you know, there was a park not too far away from there. I thought maybe that was it. No, I struck out. I struck out at every turn. I tried everything I could think of. I gotta give a shout out to Chaz Dempster of It's Filmed There, because he's the man. He found it. He found it. And I could not wait to get out here and walk on the same grass that Joel and Lana walked on their after dinner stroll through the park. It's right here. I'm right on it right now. Ah! Did I say I was excited? I'm just a little bit excited. Okay. So the ending of Risky Business, if you did not already know this, was actually changed. The director, Paul Brickman, liked the ending he came up with. It was a little sad. Joel wasn't sure if Lana had been conning him all along or if she really did care for him. It didn't seem like they were going to be seeing each other, at least not anytime soon. And it was just kind of a downbeat ending. But that's life. Considering the story, you know, it was a fitting ending. But Warner Brothers Studios wasn't having it. So they asked Brickman to reshoot the ending with a more upbeat ending. So when that scene was filmed, you know, they had already completed filming in Illinois, so they filmed it here in Los Angeles. in downtown Los Angeles in this park. And as they strolled through that park, you know, it was a little bit more flirtatious, a little bit more upbeat, and it left the future of their relationship a little bit more ambiguous. You know, maybe they would see each other again, maybe they wouldn't. And so that was the ending that we saw in the theaters. And then on the 25th anniversary, it was re-released with both endings. So we finally got to see the original ending. As far as the final scene with Joel and Lana, it was in the restaurant. But then the new ending was the one of them walking through this park in beautiful downtown LA. It's right at the Bank of America Plaza. You might see that red sculpture behind me. That was featured in another big film, and I'll get to that later. But let me kind of show you around here and show you where that final scene with Joel and Lana was filmed from Risky Business. Well, that is a very tall building. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. That is the Bank of America building here in downtown Los Angeles. And if I kind of zoom out, can't get the whole thing in one shot. You'll see that there is a park, and there's that red sculpture. Kind of reminds me a bit of the flamingo statue in Chicago a little bit that we saw in Ferris Bueller. I don't know, maybe it is a smaller replica. So there is this beautiful plaza, and there's as you can see, it's a raised area. You have to kind of climb up those ledges to get onto the grass. And then we have some fountains down here. But where I'm standing, you can see I'm at the top of another raised bed here, the same type of steps up. This is where Joel and Lana walked. They just came out from over that way, and it's kind of funny because you don't see any pavement in that scene, so they did a good job of cropping it out so it maybe looked like they were walking through maybe a bigger city park. So they cut across about back there. We saw their full-length bodies, and then there were some shots, I think, facing Lana as she was talking. And then Tom Cruise got to about here and started walking that way, and he turned around and he was facing her. They were teasing about spending the night together, and I think he said it would be, I don't know, $25 or something. I don't remember. I'm available for $25. I think it was that. Maybe not. Maybe it was. I'm so excited right now, I can't think straight. If I'm wrong, I'll put it here. But he was teasing her because originally at the start of the film, of course, she was charging him, and now he was just playing with her. So as they walked, these buildings in the background, which now you don't really have a clear view of because these trees have obviously grown. That's what trees do. So I'll go walk back there. You'll see the first building. It's very tall, and it has all those glass windows. And since that scene was filmed at night, that was all lit up, and it's unmistakable. And what really cinches it is, that's the first building, okay? Right behind it, you see a little bit of a second building peeking out. That is the Aeon building. And if you look closely in the scene, you'll notice that at the top of that second building, there was some red lettering. If I'm not mistaken, it was lit up at night. Oh, I just went too far and you can't see it, can you? Wait, let's go a little bit more. I don't want to fall on this raised bed. There's that lettering. That is the Aeon building. So that is the red lettering that you saw on that building in the distance. And here is the building with all those glass windows. I believe some of them were lit up and some were not. So it looked like maybe there was only 10 windows when in fact there was a lot more. Look at the reflection, how those windows are darker than those. It's reflecting back on something. So those are the buildings that we saw in the background. We saw a little bit of this shrubbery back here. And obviously we saw some of the buildings over there, which now are completely obscured by the trees. So this was the view behind Joel and Lana while they strolled through this park. While I'm walking back, I also wanted to mention that the sale of Ray-Bans, the Wayfarer model that Tom Cruise wore in that movie, they weren't doing very well at the time. And after the release of Risky Business and the Blues Brothers, because it's the same model, the Ray-Ban Wayfarers is the same model that Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi wore in the filming of the Blues Brothers. Sales of that model of Ray-Bans skyrocketed 2,000%. So it just goes to show you the power of the movies, the power of characters that we love. 2,000%. 2,000%. Incredible. Well, I'll show you around the rest of the plaza. It's really pretty here. People that work in this building, they get to come out here and spend their lunch hour walking around, take a break, a little midday break, which is exactly what the character in the next movie did that I'm going to show you. So the other movie I was talking about, I mean, I know this is a Risky Business filming location video, but how can you not talk about this? Right here on the grass in front of me is where Richard Gere walked when he was portraying Edward in Pretty Woman. And he came out here to take a walk to clear his head. He just walked away from work and came out to the park, took his socks and shoes off and wanted to feel the grass beneath his feet, just as Vivian had told him he should do. Right here. And y'all, if you don't think I'm dedicated, I mean, I just took off my shoes and socks and walked through the grass in exactly the same spot Richard Gere would have walked. Just give you a little quick tour of the whole park. This raised area here with the grass and the trees, this is where Joel and Lana were having their after dinner stroll. And it's also where Richard Gere, playing Edward in Pretty Woman, went for his lunchtime or break time stroll, only the camera was facing the other way. And when he went for his stroll, we saw the flamingo behind him. You didn't see the fountain, but you did see a dip below him, so that's what that dip was. So that is Joel and Lana's park. So pretty. And then over here we do have these water features, little fountains in them. Very cool. There's another raised bed platform with the flamingo. There's the Bank of America building. There's Wells Fargo. Not sure what that one is. That one over there is gorgeous. If I'm not mistaken, that is the one that was blown up in Independence Day. Yeah, that was the one that was used in Independence Day. That was the one that was blown up. It's still standing. You'll be glad to know. So, lots of tall LA skyscrapers all around this park. And then over here, there's a really cool water feature we'll go take a look at. Woo! Isn't that beautiful? Then over here, there's some tables and chairs where people can have their lunch. I mean, I'm assuming that's what it is. It looks exactly like it. I could be wrong, but it sure looks like it to me. So Tom Cruise has been quoted as saying he believes Risky Business is about capitalism, the capitalistic state of our society. He questions in the film, do you want to help people or do you just want to make money? And that is what he believes the movie is questioning. Well, Tom Cruise may be right, but I also happen to think the movie is about making choices, taking risks. We all have a choice in life to stay home and not step out of our comfort zone. That's pretty easy to do. But sometimes you have to take a chance and you have to go for it. So I'll go ahead and just wrap this up And in the immortal words of Miles Darby, portrayed by the amazing Curtis Armstrong, I'll just go ahead and say, sometimes in life, you just gotta say, what the f***. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
La 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 la. La 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 la.